You are listening to the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast, where we take an all-in, leave no doubt approach to all things adventure hunting. From the big woods to the high country. How about that? Let's learn together as we discuss with our expert guests on what it takes to be successful in the backcountry. I'm your host, Weston Homa. Let's get into it. All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast. This week, I got on Mason Martonik, and we're talking all about high country mule deer. So Mason is another guy from Pennsylvania. Seen him on East Meets West Hunt podcast, and I like following Mason because he is just another guy that gets it done on some big deer. So he's had a ton of success hunting big whitetails in the PA Big Woods, but also wanted to get him on as somebody else from back east that goes out west and hunts high country mule deer. So I pick his brain on some of the great bucks he's gotten in Colorado and Utah. We go into tips and tactics for all things high country mule deer, things that have worked for him, other lessons learned, and things like that. So if high country mule deer is something that interests you, if you're listening, I think it's a really fun hunt. These hunts are pretty difficult, getting up in the high country, spiking out in the backcountry, but there's definitely a ton of opportunity in states like Utah and Colorado. Low point seems to me like the creep isn't quite as drastic as like a later season rifle mule deer hunt. So I think not only is it a fun hunt for somebody that loves packing in, getting after it, putting miles in, but it's also a very attainable tag to get in some states and some parts of the states. So I hope you guys enjoy this one with Mason. The time of this recording, I will be only a few days away from leaving for Colorado to hunt high country mule deer, and I'm doing that first till about around mid-September, and then I'm gonna go to Idaho and hunt the elk rut for the second half of September. So absolutely fired up, excited. Pretty much all the work vacations going to September this year, and I feel very blessed, very grateful. The past few weeks here, I've just been really getting focused, getting excited, getting the mind right, visualizing, getting all my gear dialed in, tinkering with my bow, shooting, trying to shoot every day just to like build confidence, guys. Like I find that I'm just such a more confident hunter and archer if I just have time for like a few arrows at 20 some yards. Just get that in, just work that hinge, that pull. If I'm just doing that consistently, I just feel like it definitely makes a difference. So this is it. September's almost here. If you're listening from out west, you know this is something that we're waiting all year for. And even if you're from back east, probably got this tag back in the spring or even in the winter. And this is something too, been waiting and training all year for. So whether this is your first time hunting the mountains in September or this is something you've done year after year, I wish you all the best of luck. This is what we love to do. And if you're listening and still haven't made the trip out west yet or hunted the mountains or chased elk in September or something like that, and it's something you dream about doing, I implore you this winter, this spring, start looking at states and getting in the application game, because I absolutely love these hunts. I love the mountains. I love challenging myself. I love everything about them. I really feel like it makes me a better person. It gives me a little bit of direction, gives me some motivation every day to get up and train hard and run and shoot my bow and just stay disciplined. And I really, if I can help motivate guys to jump into that lifestyle or just go experience this one time, then everything I'm doing here will be a success. So that's my little spiel here at the intro of this episode. Other things going on. So yeah, getting ready to leave. My knee at the time of this recording, I still don't have results back from my MRI. If people are just tuning in for the first time, I'm really into like the ultra marathon world. Went for my first 100-miler a few weeks ago and ran the race really well. I wanted to finish at the front of the pack for my first 100, but mile really 70, my knee blew up. I pushed another 10 miles to where I couldn't take another step, and my knee kind of just totally gave out, and I'm in a brace. They think it's my MCL. I got an MRI, still waiting on results. but I really feel like I'll be okay for September, just taking it one day at a time. And at the time of this recording, I put out a similar to a hunt film, but I like to call these kind of like my race films. I find a lot of personal development and I get a lot of growth from just these really challenging endurance events. So I put out a race film on my YouTube from this Eastern States 100, and I hope you guys enjoy that. So definitely go check that out. My YouTube is just my name, Weston Homa, and I think you guys will really like it. So that's it for this week. Everybody, let's have a great week. Let's get after it. Let's work as hard as we can, and let's run the rack. All right, everybody, enjoy this one with Mason Martonik, all about high country mule deer. See ya. Go Hunt has a single purpose: make it easier for hunters to get into the field. Hunting tags are only getting harder to obtain, and Go Hunt is a research platform helping navigate the ins and outs of drawing tags and researching hunts across the West. I've had a Go Hunt membership for years now, and I'm a big fan of the articles written on there by Brady and Trail. The content is next level stuff that has helped me a ton. From animal behavior to archery, they are sharing all the nuggets. I also love the hunt films on YouTube. They are extremely inspirational, and they'll make you want to get out in the mountains ASAP. Check out the Go Hunt Gear Shop, where they have everything you need for this coming hunting season. Use the code RACK, that's R-A-C-K, for 10% off eligible items in the shop. And you can use the code RACK for $50 in-shop credit when you join as an insider. So sign up for a membership and immediately get $50 back toward hunting gear. Check it out, you won't regret it. Mountain Tough produces industry-leading functional fitness programming tested and proven by backcountry hunters and mountain athletes. Mountain Tough's programming allows users to train at home, at the gym, or on the go. These videos are like having a personal trainer right there with you every workout, wherever you are. Guys, I've been rocking the Mountain Tough workouts this past summer. I've been doing the mountain strength workouts as I'm putting on a ton of miles prepping for my 100-mile ultra marathon. This way, I'm going to be totally ready for hunting season once September comes around. There's also so much more video content on the app, including nutrition, yoga, mental health, and one of my personal favorites is the daily mobility. Use code RACK for 1 free month on the app. That's RACK, R-A-C-K, for 1 entire free month to try it out. Give it a look, and let's get Mountain Tough. I've been talking to some guys about mule deer. I've had mule deer on the mind. It's August. September's coming up, dude. And I really want to get you on to talk high country archery deer because I've seen you have some success over the years. And yeah, how's it going, man? I'm just excited to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And yeah, high country mule deer is by far my favorite style of hunting. So I'm kind of pumped to start talking about it. Unfortunately, I don't have a high country tag this year, but I'll be living vicariously through you and some other buddies, wishing I was out there.
Yeah, I remember you told me at Montana, right? You got the combo? Okay. Well, at least you can make it out.
Yeah, I
In some
still
way.
have
That's good.
a fun hunt ahead of me, but yeah, for the first time in a few years, I won't have that deer tag.
Okay. So will it be in Montana? Like, so you have the combo, so it's deer and elk, but you're going to be out there archery hunting?
Yeah, which
Okay.
primarily for elk, but you got to have the deer tag just in case.
Yeah, because that's just how it works. And then when you draw that, that's just what you get, right? I mean, haven't drew Montana yet, so I don't even know. Like when you put in for the combo, you just get your both of them.
Yep. Yeah, you just automatically get a tag for each, and I
Okay.
might if I don't get a mule deer on the first trip, I might make a second trip during kind of like around the Thanksgiving time frame, just because my brother lives out there. It'd be easy for me to fly out and do a
Right.
quick long weekend or something.
Okay, so that general tag that's good for like the whole year.
I believe so, but I need to read more into it
Yeah,
first.
I didn't want to put you on the spot. I was just curious
Yeah,
myself, but
I don't want to be the gospel on that.
no, I know. No, all good, dude. Well, that's awesome. Glad to hear you're still making the trip out west. But yeah, dude, I started following you the last couple years. Love seeing, the critters you're putting down. And so I know last year I was shooting you a few messages when you went out for Utah. Sure enough, I got you sent me a picture right back, and I was running around like crazy because I was in Idaho trying to deer hunt. I got a wildfire rolled in, and then next thing I knew, I was in Colorado hunting elk. And then I think I was like messaging you, and you were like, "Yeah, I got tagged out in Utah." So
Yeah.
had some success there, and had some success in Colorado as well, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's been a good few years for me, and hoping to keep the ball rolling.
That's awesome. I think I want to, well, first, even just touch on the fact of like, so Western hunting tags are getting like so much harder to get, like, as you know. But I'm still a little taken back of like, I don't know, dude. I think there's still a lot of good opportunities with 1 point, 2 point in Colorado. The Utah, I mean, Utah just jacked their prices up for everything, but still very feasible 1 point, 2 point for the general deer tag. Does that sound right?
Oh yeah, there's still plenty of opportunity out there, and a lot of it's just making the best of the hand that you're dealt, right? So I've been hunting
Yeah.
a lot of subpar tags, and
Yeah.
just been kind of making the best of it. For example, that tag I hunted in Colorado 2 years ago, I went out a few days before the season started and just scouting, and I was scouting from some glassing points I could see for miles. And in 3 days, until the last light on the third day before the opener, I only saw one deer, and it was a spike. So
Oh man.
so going through that, I'm like, what am I doing out here in this crap unit? I was like, I should be saving my vacation. And I was solo on that hunt too, which is, we can get into that as well. It's person. I know you do a lot of solo hunts, and you enjoy it, and a lot of people do. But to me, my ideal hunt would be to, go hunt by myself during the day and then have somebody to come back and talk with at the campsite. That I kind of miss that aspect of that hunt, but it was it was a really tough hunt just to find deer. And then last light before the opening day, I found that Drop-Tine buck that I ended up getting.
Yeah, and what a stud buck that was. I think I remember you had a good story. Well, first with the solo thing, like I've done them. There's a lot of it that I do like, but I will be the first to say, yeah, there's times where it's like, God, this just is miserable. Like,
Yeah, for
especially
sure.
when, because it's kind of hard to like, um, be decisive out there too, because you don't have anybody to bounce like like a rationale off of. So it's like very tough to be decisive, and that can drive you nuts. And then the days just get long. Yeah, I like that aspect of group camp, or at least even one other guy going and hunt, doing your own thing, because I prefer that too in those scenarios, because that way you're not like, all right, who's going in on the stock first? Like, what's the plan here? And then you're kind of like working with the other guy. I don't know. I think that's cool. The solo hunting, I do like it. I plan to do more of them. I don't have any lined up this year. I'm going to Colorado for mule deer first, and then Idaho elk. And each time, I got another guy. So
Oh,
I'll I'll
cool. Awesome.
I'll, I'll come back to it for sure. But yeah, the Colorado Drop-Tine buck, really good looking buck. Dude, do you want to start there a little bit? Because I think it's fun to pick a guy's brain from back east, not just because I mean I'm from back east, but just the whole idea of like a non-resident going to like an out of state, a place you've never been before. Maybe you have, I'm not sure, but like just the fact of we don't get to scout. So I'm always impressed seeing guys lay down, a good looking animal, um, from back east or something.
Yeah, so I've been getting caught in a weird spot with the draws the past few years where, I've been expecting to draw these a couple of good tags I've been saving up points for, and with point creep or something goofy happens, I don't draw when I was so sure I would. So that year I went to Colorado solo. I was just scrounging for any tag I could get in any state to go hunt a deer. So I ended up picking up a tag. I can't remember if it was on the left, if I got it off the leftover list, or if I drew it on like my fifth choice on my application, but I ended up with a deer tag, and I went out there solo. Like I said, I scouted for a few days, and all I turned up was a spike until right before opening day, and I turned up this. I guess I'll backtrack a little bit. I'm fast forwarding too much, but
Yeah, take your time.
This
We got plenty of time.
Th- this unit only has one really accessible road by vehicle, like by as your standard vehicle. So I kind of set up camp off that, and I was driving and hiking in different spots to glass. And the night before, or the day before the opener, I talked to somebody along that road, and they said they counted it. It was like 70 vehicles that went up that trailhead that day. So the only road into the unit, there were 70 people that drove in. So, I'm
I
feeling a
assume
little
there was
discouraged.
probably maybe even elk hunters too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I would say
Okay.
most of them were elk hunters,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So, feeling a little discouraged, and I was like, I got to do something different than hiking into these these spots that I have been. So I started looking for just driving the roads, looking for different vegetation. I had a lot of backup plans, so I was mostly going to check the easy backup plans just to find something, cover ground. And I ended up finding this Drop-Tine buck in a really odd spot. Right, it was like almost visible from a campground that was full of hunters, which was
Okay. So in a
absolutely insane.
pretty low country, like
No, it's high country, but this unit is pretty flat once you're on top. I mean, there's
okay.
quite a bit of topography, but it's not like the unit you and I were talking about before we started here.
Okay, I gotcha.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And so, and then it got dark on me, like right after I found the buck. So I went back to my tent that night because I was initially planning on, once it got dark, grabbing my camp and then hiking into a different spot to camp out for the night. But then I found this buck. So I went back to my tent, and I didn't sleep a single minute that night. I'm poring over a blurry Spartan Forge map because I didn't download my maps correctly and there's no service, so
Oh, that's the worst. Yeah.
I ran my battery down twice that night, just trying to figure out a game plan and to make sure nobody else got to this buck before me. Because it's
Mhm.
kind of selfishly, but I wanted to make sure I was the one that got the buck right. And I was like, everybody has to know about it that close to a campground, but it turned out it didn't seem to be that way. So it was a full moon that night, and probably 3 in the morning, I was like, I was outside of my tent, and I realized you could see pretty far, and then through optics, you can actually see even better because they start bringing extra light in. So I started driving and hiking up to these high points and glassing alongside the roads, making sure that buck wasn't out along a road because I was, if I did see it, I was going to try and scare him in the woods, so I was like, I'll scare him in the woods. I'll just make sure he makes it past opening morning when everybody's driving out of that campground,
Yeah. Yeah.
and luckily he wasn't out anywhere. So I
This
waited.
is not the I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is not the 13,000-foot glass them up all day open country
No,
spot and stock story I
no,
thought I was going to get, but I love it. Keep going.
I
Yeah.
I do have other stories like that, but this one is
Okay.
not that.
No,
this
that's
this one
okay. We can
like
chop it up however.
yeah, this one's like combat hunting. So
Okay.
so
Very
he's not
cool
out
though.
anywhere. I wait until it gets shooting light, the season's open, and I start still hunting through this patch of timber where I think he's gonna be. And I get pretty close to the area I think he's going to be, and the wind switches and gets bad on me, and I have to back out. So I was like, I'll drive down to this lake and I'll go fishing for the day, and I have a good idea and a good plan for this afternoon. So I drive down to this lake, and I look up into it's actually a different unit, and there's a different peak. And I was like, I bet I can get up in that peak and see into this thick timber where I think this buck is, right? So
Mhm.
so I park down by this lake and I hike. Have to leave my bow in the truck, right? So I hike up into this other unit, and as soon as I get up almost to the top of that other peak, I glass back into my unit, and that buck is standing in the one of two openings on the whole hillside in my unit. So like, he's not hanging out in it. He's just walking through. So I get a glimpse of him for
Okay.
5 seconds. So it's like, holy shit! I know exactly where he's at. I'm probably not going to have this opportunity on him again. So I go running back down to my truck. I get my bow. I drive around to it's kind of weird the way the roads were, but I had to I had to loop around to get back up on above his elevation and back behind him, and then
Hmm.
he was only half a mile from the road, like where I parked, right? So I
This is
park and I kind of
crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's insane. I parked and I can see other people as I park, and it's like I'm going to shoot this big drop-tine buck, and there's people all around where I'm parking right now.
Like other hunters or just like wreck, like people.
I'm sure there's other hunters too. I didn't really pay attention. I was,
You were,
you know,
your mind was occupied. Yeah.
yeah, I had a mission, and that's what I was focused on,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Fair enough.
So I stalked into that patch of trees, and I got up tight on him, and the woods was so thick where he was living there. I mean, multiple for a long time I was within range of him, and at times like sub 20 yards, and I just couldn't get a shot, and I've kind of played cat and mouse, crawling around under the pine trees, and finally got a clear shot, and I heart shot him and got him.
Dude, that's incredible. I
Yeah.
the amount of patience with that whole scenario, which I'm sure that's probably not how you thought it was going to play out, like on your way out there.
Oh,
The
for sure.
whole and just the the patience and the awareness of like I don't have the wind right. I'm going to back out. I'm going to go fishing. Dude, I'd be down there I don't I can't even fathom just sitting there trying to fish. I'm like I gotta go. But like you did it, and that's what I mean. Patience kills the buck. I mean you can hear that over and over and over, especially about mule deer hunting. And yeah, that is a wild scenario.
Yeah.
So was he by himself?
He was by himself, but as I was stalking in there, I found another buck. And I don't think I bumped him, but he had me pinned at one point, and he had a really similar frame, just a little smaller, no drop tine, So as I was stalking in there, I thought I blew it. I was like, son of a gun, I just blew my chance on this. I'm never gonna find another drop tine mule deer like that, right? But the more I looked at him, I think I left my binoculars. I was just going as fast as I could to make
Yeah.
it happen. But I was the idea came to me that I don't think it was the same buck, and I kept. Luckily, I kept pushing forward, and I ended up finding them, right. But yeah, it's not the way I thought it was gonna play out driving out there for sure.
Well, I think that's just a huge underlying message into it too. Like there's just not always a clear cut and dry way just to adapt and make it happen. A lot of those scenarios come up in hunting and like you totally took advantage of it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is an awesome story.
and I glassed. I mean, those prior day scouting, I glassed some absolutely gorgeous high country, and there just wasn't any deer. It's a weird unit. I said I'd never go back, but the years a couple years go by and you think about it more. Someday, if I'm hurting for a tag, someday I might.
Yeah. Yeah, just the simple fact of kind of like knowing access and stuff is like
Yeah,
almost enough to be like, well, maybe I'll give it a try. Do you
right.
think maybe even just like the pressure you saw in there kind of like changed some deer behavior of like they just were more comfortable in the timber even early? You think maybe
It
some of that?
yeah. I don't know if I don't know what the reason was, and the pressure would make sense, but even after I got that buck, I was in there for a little while longer, and that's where I started finding more deer was in the timber, right? There's gorgeous high country where in a lot of units you would, they'd be out there frolicking around. In this unit, they just weren't. So that would make sense, but I can't say if pressure was the reason or why it was, but it would make sense.
There's nothing more frustrating than being like, this is the picturesque deer basin, but there's no deer in here. Like, what is going on? I don't know. I feel
Oh,
like I've
for
definitely
sure.
been there. Yeah. Yeah. That yeah, that's awesome, dude. I maybe want to hop to because I remember watching the film. The I guess that would have been your first Colorado buck, the one you had on video on Bo's channel. You want to walk through
Oh
that
yeah,
hunt
yeah,
a
yep.
little bit? Yeah, yeah, that high
And
country buck. That looked like a little bit more of a typical uh, high country mule deer hunting story. But I'll let you go in and dive into that one.
Yeah, that was that was the kind of country I've always dreamed of
Hmm.
hunting, right? And for one reason or another, it took me probably 3 or 4 years to get to a unit like that between drawing different elk tags and just different complications on hunts that got cut short or canceled. So finally, I made it to a unit like that, right, where this just beautiful high country, exactly what you picture the poor man's sheep hunt to be, right? And
Yeah.
we I went on that hunt with my cousin Bo and one of my best friends, Michael Palladino. And again, we went early. We scouted it I don't know if it was 1, 2, or 3 days early, acclimated, and we went in there and we got to our zone that we wanted to be and immediately started finding bucks, which was really exciting. And
Mm.
and they were right in the places you'd expect them to be. And the high country was green. It was perfect. Exactly what you dream about. The prior year, I hunted the Wasatch Front in Utah, which is known to be the worst combat hunting there is. The scouting days, we had the whole high country to ourselves, it felt like. And then the day before the opener came, there, all of a sudden it was a small tent city up there with other hunters,
Damn.
you know. So we battled with other hunters in the morning, opening morning. We were being patient, and we were kind of getting flanked around, even though we were the first hunters in the basin, which I would have expected. If I seen somebody else in the basin, I would have gave them some space, right? But we got flanked on both sides by one group of hunters.
Unreal.
Yeah. But we still got to play on one buck in the morning. And Michael came really close to killing a buck that morning. And finally, we were like, we just got to get out of this basin and go find something on our own. And we had terrible weather, like soaked to the bone. Like for 2 days, it was just a monsoon, right? So we're soaked in our underwear for a couple of days now. And it was the same thing opening day. It was like just trying to glass in between being in the clouds and getting soaked. So finally, in the afternoon, we found another group of 3 bucks. And again, we have them all to ourselves, and it's just a beautiful basin. But now we're way in there. If we're getting a buck here, it's going to be an excursion getting them out.
Yeah.
And so I left Michael on the spotter, and we were talking, and he insisted that I went after him. So I went after these 3 bucks, and it was a cool stalk that where I dropped down into the bottom. Instead of trying to go above him, I dropped into the bottom of the canyon. And I was going to do what I thought was going to be a quicker stalk, but it turned into being a pretty long one. And they
Yeah.
they actually bedded down in a couple cliff bands, which made it a perfect opportunity to just poke over the top and get a shot.
Hmm.
So I finally made my way up there above them, and I peeked over, and I could see a smaller 2x2 or a 3x3, but I could see his antler tips, and I'm ranging them, and it's like 70 yards. Okay. And I know the bigger buck was the 4x4 that I wanted to shoot was a little closer to the cliff band that I was standing on. So I just got down, I as quiet as I could. I scurried across some scree, which is loose rock, and I got past that scree, and I'm staying out of sight of the bucks, and I creep up to the edge where as one or two more steps, I'm going to be exposed, and I just knelt down right there, and I kept an eye on the smaller bucks' antler tips. So usually you can tell when they're ready to stand up. They'll get a little fidgety, start looking back and forth. Well, the wind was perfect, and waiting on them for maybe 20, 30 minutes, the wind switched and hit the back of my neck and blew over that cliff band right down to him. And this the smaller buck, there's two smaller bucks. The two smaller bucks stood up like they're getting ready to blow out of there. So I made a decision to make a move. So I already had my pin dialed to where I thought the bigger buck was, and drew back and stood up, and the bigger 4x4 was still bedded, but he was looking at me, and I had a good quartering two angle into his shoulder, and I let the arrow fly, and was able to get him. And that was kind of like my dream hunt. So I was on cloud nine. That probably one of the happiest times I've ever been.
Oh, dude, that does sound epic. Like, just even like back up and go like further into it. Even when they winded you right there, because like I've just found that like you can really learn how skittish whitetail are back here once you go out and get around some mule deer. Did you feel like they were a little bit more like, or they were less skittish? Like, did you like would you, if you would have thought like if those were a couple whitetails standing there that they might have just busted you and took off versus these mule deer, they kind of gave you a chance a little bit.
I definitely had a little bit of a chance here. I think what helped me was with the wind swirling like that, they didn't exactly know which way to run, right? So they got one
Okay.
little whiff. They got one little whiff of me, and it's like they didn't know which way to go, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. But I also didn't give them a lot of time. They got up. I could tell they were scared, thinking that they're ready to bust, and I decided to make a move, and it paid off for me.
Yeah,
But
for
in
sure.
general, I do think that mule deer are a little more tolerant as far as how fast they'll blow out.
I think you can, yeah, definitely get away with a little bit more, at least compared to just a typical similar scenario you'd have with a whitetail, and then even elk the same way. Sometimes I don't know. I blew more herds out last year than I did till I finally arrowed this cow, but I was surprised a little bit about what you could get away with as long as you had the wind right.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know if that's something similar you've seen.
I just in Utah last year, we were around. We seen a lot more elk than we did deer on that hunt, even though we just had deer tags. So we were
Hmm.
around elk every day. And some days it was even the elk were screwing us up when we are trying to stalk bucks. So we were around elk every day, and it seemed to me like we could get away with a lot of movement, but if even one elk in the herd smelled us, it
Oh
was like
yeah,
the whole herd was gone in one instant. Where if the mule deer smelled us, they definitely gave us a little more time than the elk did.
that makes sense. Because I'm thinking about this massive herd that I blew out last year, um, this elk herd, and that's what it was. I was like kind of coming down to him at like an angle a little bit, but below me was some timber, and I had no idea there was like a few cows in there. And then when I blew, that's what happened. Like wind kind of switched, thermals dropped, it just kind of quit raining. I convinced myself the thermals were rising when like they weren't. I was just being stupidly aggressive. But like yeah, and that's what busted me. Like they got as soon as that wind switched, they got a whiff and then blew out everybody else. So yeah, you definitely
Oh yeah.
cannot beat the nose.
Oh, for sure.
But with these mule deer though, in Colorado on this story, backing up again, so saw this group of them. Were you watching them for a long time during the day? Was that their first bed, or like kind of walk me through that? Did they bed again?
It, yeah, if I had to guess, I mean, it was a really stormy day, like dreary, dark day. We probably found them. I'm just taking a guess here, maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they were up
Okay,
feeding, and they were up in like the nasty, steep, rocky stuff. And we watched them for a while until they started to bed down, and that's when I decided to make the move. So it was early afternoon to midday when I left for the stock.
okay,
So prior to that, I don't know what they were doing. We were in a different basin.
okay. I have heard just a lot about wait for the second bed. But it's funny, like I was talking to Robbie Denning last night, which will be a different episode, and he was like, "Dude, I can only tell you a couple times when I've actually like done that. Like I think he was like, in my opinion, every scenario is so different. I've had times where as soon as I glass them up, I'm diving right in on a stock because I can map it out and it depends on what they're doing. Other times I will sit there all day and wait for something to happen. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
I I would lean more with Robbie there than than waiting for the second bed. Not that I'm an experienced mule deer hunter, I haven't been doing this for decades like a lot of people have, but I treat whether it's whitetail, mule deer, elk, I treat every situation as this is its own individual scenario, and And if I think I can find an opportunity that I can get in there and get a shot, I'm gonna go. But if it doesn't seem right, and I think there's no chance I get it done without spooking it, then I'll wait. That's just how I do it, right or wrong. And also, it was with being a dreary, dark day the way it was. I don't think that's the same scenario as the sun comes up and they head to bed and they want to stay out of the sun and stay cold. It was already a cold, dreary day. They were kind of the conditions were comfortable for them to be up feeding at any time, I guess.
Yeah, and maybe those hot sunny days too, you're gonna have that consistent rising thermal. Again, yeah, that might be completely different, or at least different on how you approach your stock versus a dreary overcast day.
Right. I also think if it's a sunny day, they're gonna want to stay bedded longer. They're gonna get into their first or second bed. And if they have a good spot and they have a lot of shade, they're not gonna want to be up moving around feeding in the sun for too long. Where the cloudy day, it almost didn't matter if it was noon or 6 p.m. It was the temperature and the conditions were the same.
Yeah, and makes me think about whitetails. Probably very similar hunting a
Yeah.
whitetail early season.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So even then, taking a step back from that hunt, and then we can even like pivot into Utah last year with the buck you killed there. Um, so what are some things even prior to that hunt going to in Colorado? It's like, okay, we drew the tag. This is the tag we wanted to do, and we're doing at least a little bit of e-scouting, I'd imagine. What are some maybe things, and now like in hindsight, looking back, might be some good things to think of when somebody's looking at these high basins and trying to think like, because it's a commitment to get up in the high country, and it's like it's never a guarantee there's always deer up there, but you're talking, that might be a whole day. Just be like, okay, this is Plan A basin. Um, it's a commitment. So, what are some things you're looking at even prior to going on the hunt?
Yeah. For that hunt, what I was looking for was I was looking for basin, an area that I could look in as many basins as possible with the least amount of effort and time. Right. So that spot had a ridge that you could run. I mean, it wasn't necessarily easy walking up there because there's still a lot of elevation change even on the ridge, but logistically it was possible to within a 1 day's time period look in at least 3 or 4 different basins. But it also felt like everybody else had the same idea,
Yeah,
right? So I know Michael really leaned towards a different part of that unit that had more roads in it, and the basins were harder to get between. And I wonder if we would have went there initially, if we would have had less pressure, right? Because it wasn't as an attractive high country. It wasn't your typical mule deer habitat that you live in that you read about in books. It was just a more challenging area to hunt, and I think that's why everybody gravitated towards where we were.
okay, that makes sense. It's something I don't know, dude. Yeah, that's any hunt. Like,
Like if I knew I
if
had
you,
it all to myself, we were in the right spot.
yeah,
But public land, you gotta. I think moving forward after that hunt, I'm gonna start thinking about where does nobody else want to go.
yeah, yeah. I definitely try to think like that for elk because I know guaranteed that's where they're at. I mean, I'm sure deer it's similar, but just that's nastiest, thickest, miserable back in place, probably where they are.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we were in really deep on that Colorado hunt too, and which I thought would have deterred more people. I mean, there was a hiking trail that got us 80 or 90% of the way in there, but still, it was like almost a whole day of walking, and
Yeah.
and to still have that much competition was surprising.
And it's not like if somebody's listening that hasn't put in for a deer tag, I mean, it's not like the unit we're talking about. I don't know how many points it took, like whatever, but it's not like these are over the counter unlimited deer tags. There's a set number wherever you go. It's not like, well, Colorado's doing away with it in their archery season. Still with their rifle seasons, and they have unlimited over the counter where, yeah, it could be every Tom, Dick, and Harry. So it's like, yeah, it's still Like that's tough. There's only so many people, but you're still dealing with the pressure. It can be frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure there are parts of that unit that don't see much pressure at all. We just, we were in what I thought was the best looking spot, and it looked good to everybody else too, apparently.
Well, you got it done, dude. That's all that
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
So, real quick, you mentioned books, mule deer books. Do you have one or two that you like?
I'm not a big book guy, but as I do read a lot of articles, I guess, online, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm always on Rock Slide or Monster Muleys or any forum I can find. I'm reading it, on
Hmm.
my breaks at work or whenever I have a chance. But I don't have any hunting books that I read, or I I want to read more, but I don't, I
That's
guess.
okay. No, I think even those like blogs and stuff like that, especially when you're getting it from, people that are really insightful. Like, dude, something I read. Well, it was a article about reading articles, I guess. I like to bring this up because it was so interesting. Like on
Mm,
Go Hunt, Brady Miller, who's a huge mule deer guy, wrote an article saying how he uses Google Scholar, which I didn't really even know what that was till I read this. Like he uses that to find research studies about deer and elk populations in different states and stuff. So he
mm.
actually like utilizes that to find some research papers. And I remember diving into that before I went to my deer unit in Idaho. And you're not going to find like a study where it's like, this is where the deer are in your unit. It's going to be some like long, flamboyant thing. But just to like help get an idea of like feed and things like that. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting and I
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah, it would
share.
be.
Yeah.
And more so on the whitetail side, collar deer studies is something that I paid a lot of attention to and kind of studied. And I don't want to say research, but I read every deer collar study I could for for Pennsylvania, and I know that other states do it as well. It was just so happened that I came across the studies that Penn State did, and I found them pretty interesting, and I think it's helped me think about things differently. So if you could do the same thing for mule deer, I would bet that it would be very beneficial.
Oh yeah, man. And I've seen kind of that. I've seen those Penn State studies before, and just reading anything, I found like, okay, it's okay. Because I used to think like I used to never read anything like books or anything. Now I try to have like a book on me, but like even if like the goal is not to like you're not going to memorize the whole thing, but if you can just like pick up like one little nugget that kind of sticks with you, and it might stick with you like on the hunt. Like for example, if like you read an article about mule deer feed in early season and they have some pictures of like a certain kind of like flora or like something random and it just kind of catches your eye out there, not even saying like a big buck's gonna be sitting there, but it's just something else that's just gonna make you like behind the spotter be like, oh, I'm just gonna make sure I'm like looking at that, or like, oh, I remember that. So I don't know,
Yeah,
just good little nuggets. Yeah.
yeah. Any nugget's a good nugget, and you can never have too much information. Uh, I'm sure you heard of the Seek One guys for whitetail. So I got to meet Lee. He's the main guy. One of the main guys with Seek One, and I met him in person at a deer camp, and he was, from the moment he walked through the door, he's just picking everybody's brain about, he's killed more big bucks than almost anybody I've ever met. And he's just every person in the room, he's picking their brain, trying to figure out, okay, what do you know? What should I be looking for? So it's good to stay humble and just be a student of the game, I think.
Well, that's it right there. That's why he's so good, because he's always
Yeah.
a student and asking questions. I'm not saying I have it figured out or I'm as good as I want to be, but I am thinking that that's kind of like the secret.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But all right, let's bounce to Utah. So last year, Utah, I was actually shooting you some messages, I think around this time too. And then, yeah, like I said, sure enough, I see you holding a skull, and was it a 3x3
Yeah.
on
Yep.
velvet? Yeah,
Yep. Just
big
just a
3 point
wide
though.
three by three. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That
stud
was a
buck.
fun hunt. Yeah, it was another unit. It's fairly easy to draw in Utah, and scrounging for a tag again, so we picked up what we could. I talked my brother into applying with me, so my brother and I both drew that tag, and he lives in Montana now. I live in Pennsylvania, so we don't get to see each other too much. Maybe 2 times a year. So I was really excited about this hunt, and it was by far the hardest I've ever worked on a hunt. And my brother's he's like 6'4" and maybe 100. I don't want to insult him one way or the other, but maybe 160 to 170 pounds, and he hikes his ass off in Montana all year long. So he's in phenomenal shape. I I was doing my due diligence to get in shape and go for runs and be at my best. And hiking into this unit, there was a trail that we wanted to use to get into the high country, and there's quite a bit of elevation gain. And it was, I think it was like 9.5 miles just where we wanted to camp, and then we wanted to hunt, another few miles further. It was just humongous country, and that we knew the deer densities were low, so we knew it was going to be a grind of a hunt. But I was so stoked for it, and hiking in, I was really proud of myself. I was like, man, I got in shape. I'm doing really good, and
Hell yeah.
and next thing I know, my brother's looking back. He's always waiting for me because his legs go up to my chest. And he's like, "You're fat. You're lazy. You didn't work hard enough." Just brothers picking on each other. But so
Yep.
it was fun, and he kept me humbled, which was fun. But yeah, there was numerous days on that hunt that we did over 20 miles in a 24-hour period. So
Dude.
it was just exhausting. But the country was gorgeous. We were seeing lots of animals, not a lot of deer, but a lot of animals in general, whether it was moose or elk or sheep.
That'll just help your mental so much, because there's nothing worse than being like, is there any life up here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just beautiful. We were having a good time, and finally, it was the night before the opener, and we still didn't have a buck to go after, right? And we were kind of palling around. We were going to help each other on stalks and whatnot. So we were both kind of nervous about the opener. So finally, the opening morning, we pushed in like another mile or mile and a half further than we've been yet further into the high country, and we found 2 bucks right at first light as soon as we peek into this basin. And one just looks like an absolute hammer. It's still too dark to really see what it is, but it just has a fantastic frame on it, and there's a smaller buck with it. And as it got later, it ended up being this 3x3 and a smaller 4x4. So, opening day, I wasn't real sure if I wanted to shoot either one yet. And my brother was he hasn't shot a high country mule deer at the time, so I was pushing him to go on the stalks, and we tried all day to get a good play on those bucks, and they wouldn't position themselves in a good spot. So that it was, we never pushed in to execute on them, and that was pretty much the end of opening morning or opening day. The whole opening day was shot on those 2 bucks, but we found some bucks, so that was really good. And these canyons we were in were they're pushing 3 miles wide, and so we're also kind of going off each end of these canyons and looking to try and find other bucks, and it seemed like we would find does here and there scattered out just in random places, but we really only found 2 groups of bucks in this. It was a 9-day hunt, right? So we glassed across this. We glassed across.
Did you have what size spotter were you running? Like some big glass with those big basins, or?
I couldn't tell you. I could I'll text you after the
Okay.
show. I'd have to look, but it's not the biggest ones that they make. It's like the middle size that Vortex makes is what I have.
Maybe a 65 range. Like I run a 65, and I'm always curious of like my effective range, I call it. Like sometimes I try to map it on Onyx. I'm like, okay, I caught that deer. I can really barely tell like how big he is. Like how far is that on Onyx? Say it's 0.9 miles. And then when I'm like e-scouting later a little bit, I might kind of keep that front of mind and be like, okay, anything beyond this, like I might need to pick up a different glassing knob. Like I don't know. So I'm curious. Like
so
sometimes I talk to guys like, how far can you really see?
I did that same thing before this hunt, and I was worried about being able to glass from one ridge to the next. You know,
Yeah.
so that's the scenario we were in the entire hunt was trying to do that.
Yeah,
But
that's the worst. It's like, damn it, I'm here and I got my spotter, but it's like, yeah, I just I've definitely been there. Okay, that's why I
and,
asked. I was curious, but
and
yeah,
we
that's a
we didn't think
struggle.
we'd be able to see that far, but if you watch a deer, you see a speck over there, and it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure that's a deer, and you watch it, and pretty soon the lighting will get right, and you can almost tell, you can get a general idea of the caliber of buck it is,
Yeah.
but you might have to watch it for an hour or two to get the lighting and everything and the angles and everything just right to be able to
Yep.
see what's going on. So we found another group of bucks, and finally one day we decided, let's just go, let's make the trek across this canyon and go check those bucks out. So we went over there, and there's a couple decent bucks in that group. It was a bigger group of bucks, and we made some plays on them for a couple days. Found a matching set of moose antlers, which was really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights. And finally, my brother had a couple failed stalks. I had one failed stock, which I really think I could have executed on, but I wasn't real sure if I wanted to shoot the buck or not. And Tyler finally, he's like, "You got to go on a stalk." Because now it's been a couple of days that he's just been stalking, and I've been watching, right? So I was like, I want to go back after that 3 point. So the next morning, we got up, and we hiked over to that across that big canyon again, over to where the 3 point was, and we found him, and I climbed up on top of the ridge, and made a play down on him, and he bedded in a small cluster of jack pines down maybe the bottom third of the canyon wall. So I just kind of scurried down this really steep face, and got set up, because there was an avalanche chute with some snow that was melting, and it was making the grass on this avalanche chute really green, and we've seen him feeding in there quite a few times now. So I was able to slip into that spot and wait. I waited maybe 3 or 4 hours, and finally he fed up, and he fed up. He came out in that avalanche chute in a different spot that I didn't expect, and he was going to get above me where I had no cover. So I decided to try and make a longer shot on him, which I'm very capable of. And I shot. It was like 72 yards or something. I waited for the wind to die. It was completely calm. I executed a great shot, and as long as I execute a great shot, if I miss it, it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
So I was right on him. I
I know what you mean.
executed a great shot, and he heard my arrow coming. He didn't hear my bow. I'm almost positive he heard my arrow coming, and he ducked it. And then it went over his back, and it went another 60 yards, and it smacked into a rock cliff back behind him. So then he thought the danger was on the opposite side of him. So he went running down the mountain, but he was curious of what the heck just flew over his back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he circled back around and came up closer to me. Now he's coming by. It was like between 50. I can't remember what I shot for, but it was like between 50 and 54. I dialed my sight to, and I just smoked him.
Oh,
So,
dude, way to
so I
keep
got
the composure.
I got so lucky that he came back up to see what was going on.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's a good story too. Do you
And,
run stocking shoes? I'm curious. Like, do you
no,
slip any? Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I've shot all my mule deer with my boots on.
with the
So
boots on. Okay.
yeah. So and normally my plan is, I'll take my boots off and stalk in, but as long as I'm going, and I feel like I'm being quiet enough, I just leave my boots on, and I guess just do it.
Yeah, yeah. I've just again, these are like just small things, but I feel like I've heard just some guys be like, "Oh yeah, like I got these ones off wherever, and they're great, and I always use them," and then other guys are like, I don't use them, and everybody's successful in their own way. It's funny. My buddy bought this pair off Amazon, which is just like a knitted sock, and it's like this suede bottom. And I was like, okay, you try those, and I'm gonna try with my boots on, and we'll see how it goes. But I was curious about that because I know people like those.
I think it would be an advantage to use either be in your socks or a stocking shoe, but I don't think it's necessary. I'm not a gear guy whatsoever. I've been on Western hunts. I didn't even have a GPS app or a GPS at all, which was mostly because I was just irresponsible and forgot it back in Pennsylvania. I just try and simplify everything. If I have my boots on and I'm like I feel like I can execute on this no
Yeah,
problem with my boots on. I'm just gonna leave them on. Just simplify it.
yeah. Keeping the main thing like the main thing. I like it. Just
Yeah.
trying to get on a buck. Yeah. You mentioned like he was working in this avalanche chute and it was had this like snow runoff. I just feel like I try to yeah, it just things like that. I mean, they stick out too because that green is like green. And have you seen in general that kind of be a hot spot up there if like your eye catches an avalanche chute or a seep or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. There's uh I've definitely seen greener grass underneath snow snow patches, I guess. So if the
Hmm.
rest of the high country is burning off and there's a snow patch, that snow is absolutely going to help. The moisture coming off of it's going to help keep that grass fresher. I don't know exactly what it does, but the food's better under it, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all I can tell you. And even that Colorado buck story I just told in the high country, like the real high country story, there was a snow patch right next to where I killed those bucks too.
Yeah. Something else little maybe just worth keeping in mind if guys are up there.
Yeah.
Um I wanted to ask you too, since you have been doing this now, killed a few good bucks just over the years. If you were to look back, maybe that first time too, like you went out to what was your first time going out there for mule deer? Was that in Utah as well? Um, well, the question is curious, what might you tell your younger self then going out for that first trip than with what you know now after getting a couple bucks on the ground?
Yeah, I guess the first Western trip or the first mule deer hunt.
Let's do I think I do want to ask both those. Let's do it specific to mule deer first. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, the for mule deer, I would say just even this would even apply to both of them. Really, is it's amazing the country that you can cover one step at a time, right?
yeah,
So places that you don't know if you can get to, just start walking. You'll quickly find out like, holy shit, an hour went by and I'm almost there. So just being able to cover ground and keep searching. I mean, stay on the glass as long as possible would be my number one thing I would tell myself if I was going on my first mule deer hunt is push yourself to get to the best glassing spots and keep your eyes in the glass.
yeah. I've something like a riddle or whatever you want to call it. I tell myself like when I'm out there behind the glass because if people haven't done it for a long time, it can be. I mean, that eye fatigue is like a real thing for sure. But I have this like whatever mantra I tell myself of like, okay, the objective here is to find a deer or an elk or whatever or a bear. Okay, you're only gonna find them by looking through the spotter. So, like, by default, like, you have to keep your face in the spotter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you
Oh,
can't,
for sure.
like, there's no way around it. And, like, sometimes that just forces me to just stay on that glass longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say by far that'd be the best tip. I mean,
Hmm.
there's so many times on mule deer hunts that I'm just like, I am sick of looking through these stupid lenses.
I
But
know.
it's the only way to do it, right? Your eyes will hurt. You'll go to I go to bed out there in my tent and it's like my eyes are just aching. And
Yeah.
you can have I probably don't have the best glass, but I have pretty good glass. And I feel like even if you had the best glass out there, you're still going to get that feeling if you're doing it enough.
Yeah. It's hard to say, if you do it long enough with quote bad glass versus good glass, who knows the difference that's gonna make really. As far as that goes at least. But I like your other answer there too. It's amazing how much ground you can cover. I feel like as I look back on hunts, like, day one, you kind of get settled in, day or two before season to scout, and like you got your camp, and I'm just picturing myself like looking at like my onX map, and like I got the pin drops like at my camp, and like from that first day to like day 7, 8, 9, 10, what I thought was like possible to get to, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like day one, I'm looking at just like these few ridges like in front of me, and I'm like, oh yeah, we can spend time here, like whatever. And then by the end of that hunt, I have pins like way further out on my maps than like I thought was even like gonna be part of the game,
Yeah.
So like that, I love that answer, because it's, never want to cap yourself even early in a hunt. Like you can cover way more ground than you think.
Absolutely. One step at a time will get you to places you never even thought were possible.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, dude. So I don't think I have anything else as far as the mule deer goes. Is there anything else though, just like over the years, just with Western hunting in general, that you might want to give advice to like the first time guy going out there from back east, or anything? Anything else? I know a couple of those answers there were good, but anything else kind of like that come to mind?
One thing from my first Western hunt, it was an elk hunt in Colorado, like most people's first Western hunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would be to, there's a lot of information out on this now, and you should do research on how to keep your pack light. Like all of us way overpacked our packs. We were hiking in probably 75 pounds in our pack with so much stupid stuff like numerous flashlights, extra batteries, a hatchet. It's like
Yeah.
so many extra clothes. It was stupid, and it's
Yeah.
like you can really, if you do your research ahead of time on how to pack a backpack and what you need for different hunts. There's so much information out now. Just get that pack weight down, because it'll save a lot of energy when you're taking, I don't know how many maybe 100,000 steps. I don't know, in a couple days just to get into your spots. It adds up. Every step is just that much more energy that you're packing on your back.
And it's so easy to be home and be like, well, you never know, I'm just going to throw this in there. But when you're
Yeah.
getting your ass kicked out there after a while, it turns into like, dude, literally, I'm going to rip off like this buckle that I haven't used, like on here, like this little clip or something, like every like ounce. No, I think that's a good tip too. Yeah, people can definitely look at gear lists, pack dumps. Yeah, I was laughing when you were talking, because like the hatchet, pretty sure that first year I've had a hatchet in my bag, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Like,
it's so
yeah,
heavy, and I never even used it.
yeah, but you just think like that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And then the clothes thing too. Yeah, dude, one pair of pants, maybe, another pair of like backup pair of socks. Um, Pretty much just rocking the whole thing the whole time.
Yeah.
The same stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gross. It's gross wearing the same clothes all the time, but it's so worth it.
I know, and when I started doing it, I thought I'd be a little bit more whatever, but you just wake up every day just so, at least I do, just like so excited for the day and like so pumped. It's like you get over that real quick.
Yeah, the merino's pretty good now too, which really
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you too. So you said you got Montana this year and might go back out for that deer later. Is that the plans for this fall, between that and then your Pennsylvania stuff?
Yeah, that's pretty much it this year. I'd like to squeeze in another hunt, but being the first year as a dad, I kind of want to be home too. It wasn't long after he was born I got really sick, and I didn't want to be around him for a few days, and that was really hard. So I'm kind of curious to see how I do on this first hunt of the season, being away from him for so long.
I could imagine. Yeah, that'll be something else kind of in the back of your mind. Well,
And
props to you for still trying to make it happen.
yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, yeah, I'll let you go. Where can people find you if they want to follow along with everything you got going on and things like that on, Instagram, Facebook, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram just as Mason Martonik. I'm not very active on there. I don't know how active I'll be in the future, but yeah, that's the only place I really am.
When you do post something though, it's worth it's worth showing. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually a big buck.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, dude. I appreciate you hopping on, and I'm looking forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun, man. I enjoy talking about hunting, and congrats on your podcast. And if you haven't listened to his older podcast, there's a lot of good stuff there. I've been kind of binge listening to all of them, and had some awesome guests on already too.
Thanks, dude. I've just really enjoyed it, and just gonna keep it rolling. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think my plan too is I'm hunting Colorado first in beginning of September, then bouncing to Idaho. I took these guys up on. I'm laughing because we were just talking about keeping your pack light, but I did bring these on a bear hunt in Idaho in this spring, and I really want to bring these up to like mule deer camp at 13,000 feet and do a live podcast. So like, it's funny. Like I just spent, a couple $100 buying like a new lightweight single man Stone Glacier. They call it their bivy, but just looks more just like a real small single man. So it's like, oh man, I just saved like 1.5 pounds, but I'm also gonna be the guy throwing these in there in a recorder. But I think it would be like really fun. So
if you're running 100-mile races, you could make it happen though.
yeah, for sure. Oh, dude, I think I lost my video here, but that's all right. We'll wrap up here. And hey, man, yeah, thanks again for coming on, and we'll keep in touch. Thanks for everybody listening, and we'll catch you later.
All right, thanks.
See ya. Hey, if you liked that episode, please share it with a friend, share it on your story, and give the podcast a rating and a review on wherever you listen. For more of this type of content, you can head over to the YouTube channel and follow along on all the social platforms. Really appreciate it. See you on the mountain.